Thank you for joining us, everyone. We're just going to start in a few minutes.
Hello, thank you very much for taking the time to join this webcast today. We're talking today about the evolution of sales enablement with CSO Insights. Before we get started, just to note a couple of housekeeping items. First off, we're recording this session so that we can provide you with an on-demand version after the event. If you have any questions during the session, please do enter those into the questions panel to the right of your Wright Talk console, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible at the end of this presentation. I'm Emma Dunstone, I'm the VP of Marketing at Showpad, and today we have the pleasure of hearing from Tamara Schenk, a Research Director at CSO Insights and the Lead Analyst on the Sales Enablement Optimization Study. Good morning, Tamara.
Good morning, Emma. Thanks for having me.
No problem, we're glad you joined us. In today's presentation, Tamara, we're going to be discussing the results of the 2016 Sales Enablement Optimization Study, which is conducted by CSO Insights each year. The topics covered will be the evolution of sales enablement, the outcome of enablement initiatives for the company studied, the importance of formalizing a sales enablement function toward achieving your enablement goals, and finally, how to focus your enablement and those key components as such. So Tamara, sales enablement is not a new subject, but it is and is still an evolving practice. I would like to start today's webinar by providing a bit of background on sales enablement and the data that you're about to present. I know this is your second year of studying sales enablement trends. What have been the biggest trends that you've seen, and what does sales enablement look like, and how has that changed over time?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. What we've seen is, and we will share it in a few moments, is that enablement is definitely a fast-growing discipline. And it impacts many, many functions within the organization, so it's not only a sales and marketing issue. And of course, as analysts, we're always very much focused on what is the business impact of sales enablement and how can you improve the business impact and what has to be done to do so. And so we will see also today it's a foundational prerequisites here you have to have in place, like the right way of customer journey alignment. You have to get your cross-function collaboration right, a few things to be able to achieve the desired performance goals. Yeah, that's a few of the highlights. So then let's go into this, and let's begin with what I just said. Enablement is a growing discipline. So in our study at CSO Insights, we looked at enablement since 2013, and as you can see here, so back in 2013, 19.3% indicated and said, yes, we have something like an enablement function, discipline, program, or initiative. And now in 2016, what we've seen here, we have 32.7% of the participants who said, yes, we have an enablement function. So this is an increase of 69% just in these 4 years. So, and then let's look at the other hand side, and then let's see, but quota attainment is decreasing in almost the same amount of time. So we studied this in our sales performance optimization study for years, how quota attainment evolves. And back in 2012, there was a quota attainment, an average quota attainment of study of 63%. And if you look at the numbers, now we're down at 55 to 8% quota attainment, and that's the average quota attainment of this study, and it matches pretty much the values we get also from other studies. So the question becomes, from an enablement perspective, of, well, this is really an important metric in any sales, or it's not the only one, but it is a relevant one. So what is actually done to equip salespeople so that they are able to hit their quota? And before we go into the details to answer this question, I would like to show you a few demographics of the study. So we're really proud to say that this is one of the rare global studies on sales enablement. You can see here on the left-hand side, North America, of course, but the EMEA region, all the other regions of the world have participated in the study. We have different company sizes represented in the study, as you can see it on the right-hand side. And another data point I know many of you are interested in is what is the reporting structure of sales enablement? And the question really is, where in sales is sales enablement? So we see that from the growing discipline itself, that more and more enablement reports somewhere within executive sales management, and especially in large companies, sales operations is a home for enablement. And also, of course, marketing is a home for enablement, especially in the medium-sized companies, and for those who have a strong focus on the content part of it. So then another foundational slide I would like to share with you, that we're all on the same page. What is it actually we are talking about? So sales enablement, if you ask 10 people, you still get probably 10 different answers and perspectives on that. So at CSO Insights, we put a lot of effort in it to come up with a comprehensive definition that's, of course, also based on my past. So I had the pleasure to evolve enablement from a program to a function, to a strategic discipline, IT systems, a global IT service provider. So we came up with, what is it? Salesforce enablement is a strategic cross-functional discipline, and it's designed to increase sales results and productivity. And we do this by providing integrated content, training, and coaching services for both for salespeople and their frontline sales managers along the entire customer's journey, and of course, powered by technology. So a simple definition that makes sure that we know what it is, why are we doing it, how we do it, for whom, what's the main design point, and again, how. So technology is definitely an important element here.
So it's clear that decreasing quota attainment is a huge problem. I'm sure that so many can relate to that pain of declining productivity and effectiveness in the sales organization. So now that we know what the overarching problem is, what have we learned from the study, and what outcomes do you think we should expect from implementing a sales enablement function? And more importantly, what should that function look like?
Yeah, we can answer a little bit of that. So let's look into the outcome of enablement initiative. And let me also share why the approach, how you approach sales enablement, is so important and has such a big impact on the outcomes you can actually achieve. So here, you can see that the outcome of an enablement initiative is currently not that satisfying. So in a nutshell, you see here that 2/3 of the study participants met only some or a few of their expectations, or they didn't take any enablement initiative in the first place. But on the other hand, there is also 1/3 here of the study participants who met most or all of their expectations. So there is a lot we can learn from those who met most or all of their expectations, and that's actually what we did in the analysis of the data, and what are we going to share with you.
Okay, thank you. So if you look at the results that you've seen, why are there so many outcomes of sales enablement initiatives that aren't satisfying? And looks like you've got some answers here about what the reasons for that dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we come to a few more, but overall, what we see all over the place is that there is still initiatives or programs that are designed in a one-of-project manner. It's still a problem if organizations think in point solutions only. Oh, I need a piece of technology here, and then we solve a problem. The technology can solve a lot of problems, but the homework and the preparation has to be done beforehand. So just as an example, it's like moving houses. So you will probably first clean your basement before you move houses, and this is something similar we just need to do to prepare, for instance, a technology implementation is one part of enablement. And then what we also see a lot is that content and training services are created from different parts in the organization, and that at the end of the day, the messages that come out of that are really not consistent, and they're actually often confusing for the sales force. And then what do salespeople do? They simply switch off the noise. So aligning content and the related training and messaging services together is really a big issue. We will also see few things on this. And then another element of a good preparation is to get the cross-functional collaboration needs really organized and to set this up the right way. So we'll look a bit more into this. So the spotlight on cross-functional collaboration, what we've chosen is it's a foundational thing, it's a prerequisite, and the first thing really here to know is that enablement is not another word for sales and marketing alignment. Sales and marketing is very important within sales enablement, but there are so many other functions enablement teams have to collaborate with, as you just can see here on the left-hand side of this chart. So we don't want to bore you with all the data on this chart. Just read it in a way that you look, where is the line between the green and the blue? So we have on the left-hand side two categories that talk about need major redesign and needs improvement. On the left-hand side, the two other colors are, they say meet expectation, exceed expectation. So if you look at the top of the chart, you see that product management and product development, that apparently we have a lot of room for improvement and a need for major redesign when it comes to collaboration. And on the other hand side, if you go down to the chart, you see that executive management and sales operations are actually the functions where collaboration seems to work pretty successful. So this is just what we wanted to show here. So there is a need to set up a collaboration a bit more in a structured way. And if you look at this one, what we also asked the participants of our study, so in which way do you collaborate with the other functions in your organizations? And interestingly is that 68% collaborate on an ad hoc basis or on an informal basis, which means we have some ideas and some guidelines that actually we didn't implement it in a proper way. And then you also see that 21.7% they work on a formal approach, and we will see in a minute that only this small group of participants who work based on a formal approach have set one of the cornerstones in place to really meet their expectations, to create the outcomes they are looking for. So what we did here is we looked at the results of this group of participants in the study. Is that we work based on a formal cross-functional collaboration approach, and we mapped that to the others who said, I don't know, for us it's ad hoc or it's informal, and we just looked at the outcomes they achieve. And you can see here, you're much more likely to achieve your goals and to meet expectations if you work based on a formal approach of collaboration. And then you want to know, so how does that look like? What does that mean to have a formal collaboration approach? And we have an example I would like to share with you how you can begin to think about it. So for all the functions, you need to create enablement services. For instance, you need marketing and probably product management to create content. You need learning and HR for specific training services, and you probably need sales operations for other parts, and so on. So for all these teams, you need to create content with, begin to think in a very simple process. It's a kind of production process. So you need to define the enablement services you want to create. You have to map them out to specific buyer roles, to different phases of the customer's journey. And then you are in a phase you have actually to create them. And if you work internationally, of course, also think about translation and better localization. And then you come to phase you want to provide your content services, you want to publish them, and you want to offer your training services, whether this is e-learning or on-class services. And then at the end of the day, you want to track the interactions, you want to track the activities, and you also want to measure success. And in parallel to such a production process, just define the roles per content type. For instance, for a customer success story, probably marketing and the related account manager are important roles that have to drive this. If you think of an attachment, of a legal attachment for a contract, so you will probably need sales operations or a legal department to contribute. And just these things just have to be defined ideally per content type. So that's just an idea how to look at it. If you're interested in more, we have a ton of ideas on how to help you with that. So then let's, of course, look at the role of technology. So not only for cross-functional collaboration, in general, enablement technology plays a big role, an important role. And we were pretty surprised when we looked at the answers to this question. So we wanted to know from our participants, what are the primary methods you use to share content with your sales teams? And interestingly, so many people still email content to sales teams or put that on multiple content repositories, not even being focused on one. And not so many are already working with enablement platform. And of course, in an ideal world, all of that is also integrated in a CRM solution. So the thing here is, and not only from our data, also from my personal experience, if you provide content in many different repositories, salespeople going to work with a single one, they will just use what they have on their laptop, and it ends up in people sell things you don't want them to sell, and they just use a pricing sheet you don't want them to use anymore, these things. So this is really a cultural change, and it's a change management issue to really organize content properly and to provide that on one platform, ideally with enablement technology piece.
Yeah, I agree, Tamara. You know, you can have the best processes in the world, but without the technology, you've not enabled the enablers. Technology,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You know, technology is a crucial step towards the success of your sales enablement initiative, and it can improve, you know, it's a key component in supporting cross-functional collaboration. Obviously, tools like Showpad offer a line of sight between sales enablement, sales and marketing organizations, so to enable them to collaborate in a more effective way and to measure performance as they go. But yeah, no, this slide is both scary and fascinating.
Yeah, so there's a lot of room for growth.
Absolutely. So with so many stakeholders at play internally, it's paramount for the success of your sales enablement strategy that you collaborate across functions. That's obvious. On top of that, it's incredibly important to make better use of both technology and processes, as you've already mentioned. I guess I would like to take a step back for a second for everybody and talk about what goals that our attendees should set for themselves whilst they're implementing or improving a sales enablement function. In your assessment of sales enablement functions, what goals do you use or do you think are important? And as well, we've already talked about the importance of process in building a successful sales enablement strategy. How do you formalize that strategy? You know, we saw that formalization was important. So, you know, can you give us a little bit more insight into that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. So the key enablement goal, number one, and that was already last year, the most important goal is to increase revenue. So as you can see here, 68.2%, that's really with a lot of distance, the number one goal. And then there are a lot of performance goals that follow this one. So it's about increasing win rates, about reduction of sales cycle length. It's about increasing deal size, increasing margins, and also increase the penetration of existing accounts, or then going for new account acquisition. So a number of performance goals. So on this page here, when we talk about effectiveness, this is really to do the right things. Yeah, and if you have defined what the right things are you want to do and you want to achieve, then it comes to the question, okay, how do we get there? So what do we need to put in place in terms of productivity to get there? And then that's what we asked this year in a separate question: what are the productivity goals you're looking for? And here you can also see there are various goals, and of course number one is to decrease the ramp-up time for salespeople to full productivity. It's about increasing available selling time and providing the content and all these different things. You can see here a lot of productivity goals as well. So for us, it's just because people always struggle with these two terms. So it's simply very important that you define effectiveness first, because these are the right things, and to define effectiveness goals first, because this is what you want to achieve, and then to think about how can I do this in a cost-efficient way, and how can I do this in a way that I can achieve more with less, and that brings us then to the productivity goals.
I mean, that's a lot of goals
overall.
Tamara, how do people actually focus?
It's a jungle.
Yeah, how do they focus and prioritize those?
Yeah, so really came up with this idea. So it's a goal jungle, and it was last year pretty much the same result. And so nobody can achieve all of that at the same time. It is really a mission impossible. So what we've seen are nobody has to achieve everything at once. So it really depends on a few criteria. So first of all, what is your current state and your current maturity level in enablement? And it also depends, of course, on the context of your organization, on the specific selling challenges in your organization, and on where you currently are along your enablement journey. And so we will look in a minute at an assessment tool that can help you to determine this point of departure. And then it's of course also important, where do we want to go? So how would we describe our future vision of success? And only then we can derive and prioritize the goals and the objectives and put all the activities and strategies on a roadmap. And once we've done that, we should put that together in a charter, and then simply focus on what we put together in such a charter. So how do we come to our current state? How do we define, or how do we assess our point of departure? So at CSO Insights, we have an enablement maturity model, and here is just the overview to provide you the core ideas of this model. It actually comes from a random phase, so to say, and then we distinguish between three phases: required, recommended, and world-class. And in the required phase, this is when you begin with enablement. And what we see in the industry, some organizations begin in the training area and others begin in the content area. There is no right or wrong. It just depends on where's the biggest challenge in your organization you wanna tackle. And this is all about organizing a specific domain and structure this domain and make this domain better for the sales force. And then the more you're doing this, and at some point you see, oh, maybe we should connect the dots between the content domain here and some kind of training services that come from another department, and we still have implementation issues, so maybe we should also integrate our frontline sales managers and look at if they coach and how they coach, and if that would support our enablement initiatives. And you have a stronger focus on the customer's journey. From a technology perspective, you look more on how to leverage technology, maybe also how to integrate it into your CRM landscape. So long story short, you come from an organized state to a scalable state. Actually, in the recommended level, which is the level you should be doing, you create a scalable platform for sales performance and productivity. And then the world-class level, I'm always saying we all need ambitions. It's what we call customer core enablement. It is all about driving adaptive capabilities, adaptive skills across the sales force, leveraging more and more the sales manager role and the coaching approach, leveraging all kinds of technology, also analytics, and to really be focused on enabling customers to make their right decision. So this is how you can determine your current state, where you are.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to highlight here is that the purpose of this maturity model isn't to put yourself as high or as far to the right as you can, but to be really honest with yourself. You know, you need to know where you currently are, not where you'd like to be, so that you can assess the point of departure, as you mentioned, and make the right next decision. I think oftentimes people are very tempted to place themselves, more mature than they really are, but this is doing yourself a disservice. You cannot make an informed decision based off a faulty assessment. You can't put the right processes in place, and you can't measure the performance or how you've moved forward. So I love this slide.
Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Emma, this is all about defining where you are, and then only then you can decide what's the next required action. Yeah, exactly. That's the challenge with defining the point of departure. And once we've done this, we've already done a lot of the work we need to do to create a charter. And what we mean by that, it's a vision and strategy charter. So ideally, at the end of the day, you have that on one sheet of paper. So during this process of assessing your current state, you probably assess, well, what are the target groups I'm actually here for, I'm working for? Do I provide service for salespeople only or also for sales managers? Whatever it is, it depends on your current state, no right or wrong, but just be clear about it and define it. And when you define your vision, where you want to be in the future and how you describe that and also how you would like to measure that, then also define your mission, how you want to get there, and also think about a strong statement about your purpose, why you're existing. What is it specifically only you and your organization can drive forward? And when that's done, then it's pretty straightforward to derive the objectives, to define all the necessary activities, to put that in a strategy, put that on a timeline. It means you create roadmaps for what you're doing. And then we always recommend be very specific in the enablement services you provide. If you currently provide content services only, if you created new wonderful playbooks, and you implement an enablement solution, then just define what you currently do and then define what you're going to do within the next time frame. And also don't forget to mention how you measure success. So we also recommend to look at milestones. So when you begin, you will look at milestones in the beginning, especially when you implement something. And then you look at the productivity KPIs first. So how much can I do and how much can I do with less? And then you come when you get more and more traction within the organization, then you will also be able to measure sales performance KPIs, which means actually what happens in the sales funnel. And for a sales enablement leader, this is really your internal selling tool. And I don't get tired to hammer that home because I've walked in these shoes. So 50% of your time, especially in a large organization, is internal selling. It's one of the key roles in sales enablement. And every week, every day, somebody will have a great idea what sales enablement could do for the sales force. And you cannot do everything. I mean, you can spend your energy on 1,000 things and actually not achieving anything. So here it's really important to have this foundation of a charter. And then it's much easier for you to deal with new requirements and to explain why you will focus on this one, but not on that one right now. So actually, and that's physics, that's science, energy has to be focused to create the movement you're looking for.
And something I'd like to add here as well is that this strategy charter isn't just an exercise on paper. It really has an impact, and people with a formal enablement structure are more likely to achieve their goals. And to me, this charter is a necessary step towards building a formal structure, however you call it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, it's not a paperwork. It takes a lot of collaboration work with others. And then to get buy-in from all the executives, you need a buy-in from, absolutely. So, and then the question becomes, does it make a difference if I have one, if I have a charter? And as you mentioned earlier, the question how you approach enablement really makes a difference. And as we can see here, you achieve better outcomes if you have a formal approach, simply because you really focus your energy on an agreed strategy to achieve agreed objectives. So if you look here at the difference between 34 to 7% and 51%, the difference between the group who works in a one-off project manner or informal way, and they couldn't achieve so much of their expectations, but the other group more than 50%. So this is a difference. So it's not the only element, but we currently talk about really foundational steps you should put in place to be able to drive performance.
So to reiterate then, Tamara, we learn to focus our sales enablement efforts by understanding our current state, assessing our maturity, and formalizing our processes. But after we've done that, where do we start? What do we need to do in order to focus our efforts and reach our goals?
Yeah. So we've selected 3 areas we would recommend to focus on if that's not already done in an organization. And so the first one would be to hammer home this customer journey thinking, this customer core enablement approach. So we live in the age of the customer, so customers still make the buying decisions, whatever we automate internally. And more, it's important how we sell rather than what we have to sell. And this is one of the reasons why the discipline actually exists. And what does that mean? What is the impact of customers' journey alignment? So we looked in this study at participants who said, I know actually we don't have a lot of alignment between a customer's journey and our sales process, or some said, we are informally aligned. It means we have some guidelines and we mapped this out, but actually we didn't implement that so pretty well in our sales process. Others said, yes, we have done that. Done that once, this is formally implemented. And then there are others who say, yeah, we have done this and we've implemented it, and we've also made sure that we have mechanisms that allow us to dynamically see what needs to be changed internally. So that means with tracking abilities in enablement technology, you can see what's the result of different interactions with prospects and customers, what's successful, what's working, what's not. And you can also see when behaviors change, and then you can make the necessary alignments internally. And if you look at quota attainment, so we have seen that the study's average quota attainment was 55.8%, and only the group with a dynamic customer journey alignment could achieve 63.4%, which is an improvement by 13.6%. I mean, that's a lot. So the percentage point difference is smaller, but the actual improvement is 13.6%. So I think it's a number sales leaders cannot ignore. So then the question becomes, okay, and how many people in your study have this kind of alignment?
Can I just make sure I got that right on that example you just gave because that's really important. Let's just say that each of your sales reps carry $1 million quota each year. And if they're averaging 55.8% attainment, then they're closing just over $500,000, correct? And if you improve that by 13.6%, you're adding almost $100,000 more per rep per year. And so $100,000, if you have 5 sales team in your sales team, that could mean another $500,000 in business each year. And with 50 reps, that's $5 million. I mean, I guess you get the point, just that 13.6% improvement in quota attainment can make a huge difference, and almost, it delivers ROI on the sales enablement program in itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for this example. It is exactly how it works. And this is significant. Yeah, especially if we're in a situation where we complain about quota attainment that are decreasing. So, and this is one of the cornerstones to put in place to enable the sales force to really hit their quota.
Absolutely.
So, and the lucky group in the study who can take advantage of these 13.6% improvement in quota attainment, that's a smaller part here, the 27.7% of the participants who said we have this dynamic alignment, and all the others will end up more or less about average performance. Yeah, and then you may, of course, ask, but when I'm formally aligned, why is there no difference? And honestly, we asked this ourselves. And then if you think through the whole process, then you see what the problem is. If you have a formally aligned sales process and you don't have implemented mechanisms that help you, that allow you to quickly adjust what's changing at the customers, then you could actually create an obstacle for yourself. So this is why the difference between formal alignment and dynamic alignment is so important, and also why you should aim for a dynamic alignment. And then there is not only quota attainment, so we put that here on this slide as well. So we also looked at the impact on win rates, loss rates, and no decisions. And you can see here, if you take specifically the win rate as an example, the average win rate of the study was 46.2%. And you can see here, only with a dynamic alignment, you have a significant improvement of the win rate, around 14.7%. So the win rate here is about 53 to 2%, I guess. So also this is a 2-digit improvement. And on the other hand side, and you can be lucky about this, if your loss rate goes down by 9% and your no decision rate can be declined by 8%, so these are all good news. And also you see here, only the dynamic alignment group can actually take advantage of this. And one more sentence to this one: if you don't care about your customer journey alignment, it's not simply just that you, okay, then I get average results. No, your results will be below average. Yeah, look at informal alignment, 44 to 2% win rate. Yeah, it's 2 percentage points below the average. So also this is important for sales leaders to have in mind. So this has to be a key priority to get a customer journey alignment right. So another one, and let's touch this quickly because new hire ramp-up time and onboarding, this is really worth to have an webinar on this topic. We just looked here, wanted to give you some data on new hire ramp-up time, and also this is like assessing your point of departure in enablement. Being honest in analyzing your real new hire ramp-up time is really important. And mainly for this reason, because the new hire ramp-up time is increasing. So if you look 13 years back, the ramp-up, only 40% had a ramp-up time that was bigger than 7 months, and now 60% reported a ramp-up time that's bigger than 7 months. And now look at a fiscal year of 12 months, and then look at how many new hires it will happen when they will come, and then factor in the ramp-up time until full productivity. And then you also see how many high-performing salespeople you need in your sales force to cover that, to ensure the success of your sales force for this year. And another thought we wanted to share with you, another data point we would like to put in your mind, is also look at the average deal size, because the average deal size really impacts the ramp-up time as well. So as you can see here, just at the top of the chart and at the bottom of the chart, at the top is an average deal size smaller than 25K. And at the bottom of the chart is an average deal size that's bigger than 100K. And you can see here that for the big deals that are bigger than 100K, so 50% of the participants need between 7 and 12 months, and 22 to 5% need more than 12 months new hire ramp-up time. And then just look at the difference. If you have a smaller average deal size, 41% can do that in less than 6 months. So it is really important to know when you analyze the ramp-up time in your organization to set up a specific onboarding programs.
I'd just like to pause on the ramp-up time a second, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. You know, new hire ramp-up time and a quota attainment and win rate are often used as a leading indicator of sales effectiveness and the overall health of your sales organization. And during this presentation, we've seen evidence of both of decreasing quota attainment and increasing ramp-up time. So I really want to emphasize how reversing these trends depends so heavily on the right processes and technology, as well as effective collaboration and transparency. You know, and I guess above all, as you emphasized throughout this presentation, having a formalized sales enablement structure has the greatest impact on reducing ramp-up time and increasing quota attainment. So I just wanted to just pause and bring that piece out.
Thanks so much, Emma. Spot on. So I think that's the topic you love, content quality.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'll let you go through the slide and then I have some questions.
Yeah, we could avoid it for 40 minutes to talk about content. Now we do. So yes, content matters. Content quality matters even more. And of course, content in context matters more and more. So long story short, we asked the participants of our study many things about content. And this is just the highlight, the aggregated highlight. So we asked them for many different content types about the quality they perceive. If they said, oh, that needs major redesign, or that needs improvement, or actually, no, that's pretty good, that meets my expectations, or even if it exceeds expectations. And we could clearly make a cut between meets expectations and exceeds expectations and the improvement and the redesign part, and we could really see that, and it brings us back to one of the key metrics, the quota attainment, that the quality of your content really matters, not only for the customers directly, but also then indirectly for the sales performance in your sales force. You look at the quota attainment here. So this is an improvement by 6% compared to the average quota attainment of 55.8%. Also, this one should not be ignored, especially if you look at the downside of it. So if you have an issue with the quality of your sales content internally, then also here you won't end up simply on average. No, your quota attainment goes down, a decline is 5%. So also here, content matters. It really does.
Yeah, so to just kind of paraphrase that back to you, bad content quality has a direct impact on quota attainment and overall sales effectiveness. If your content sucks, you're worse than average in terms of quota attainment, and vice versa. If you have high quality content, it leads to above average quota attainment. That's music to my ears, as you can imagine.
I know.
but
and we have some other areas for content improvement, I guess.
Yeah, what does make content ineffective, and how do we know what it's used, and how does that impact the effectiveness of the perceived quality of our content?
Yeah, so here's another chart with a lot of data, and I just want to help you to read this easily. We wanted to know from the participants of our study, which content types do you use in which phase? So to make it very simple, we had 3 main phases. What are you using in the customer's prospects awareness phase, and customers think about a challenge and they have to make a decision, do I tackle this one or can I just postpone it? And then when they made a decision, of course, we will buy something. We are in the kind of buying phase, and this is when salespeople switch from lead to opportunity. It's the actual buying phase. And then we also wanted to look later on at the implementation and adoption phase. And just if you look here at the colors, you see 2 things. There's a lot of dark blue on top, and that's email template and white papers are apparently the top content assets for the prospecting phase. And then there's a lot of green, and it means actually the most content is actually used when we're already in a buying phase. And of course, we can debate an hour about this chart, but I was really surprised that, for instance, customer case studies and references, when I can show a prospect what kind of business value he or she can achieve with a certain service, where this is not used earlier on, just compared to email templates and white papers, but we will probably get more detail on this if we focus more on analyzing this one. But really, it's about timing, it's about relevance, and it's about value. So the right thing at the right time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, this very much aligns to what we see through the analytics that we have on Showpad and how content is used at different stages of the buying cycle. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, delivering a timely and relevant message that delivers value is a key component towards aligning yourself to the customer journey. And it really does start with content. It's so important for marketers to be able to see what content your sales teams are using in the field, what content is most commonly used throughout different stages of the sales cycle, and what content is actually driving deals home. And again, relevance is key here. Showpad, for example, and other types of solutions, can provide the ability to recommend your sales team the right content in the right context at the right time and related to that particular customer, and the necessary information to allow you to tailor your content to different buying stages and personas. Mm-hmm. with that kind of information, it's a breeze to be able to align your sales process to the customer journey. And, ultimately, the more you enable your sales team to do that swiftly and easily, the more time they're able to spend selling.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, of course, the ideal world that the right content types are recommended to salespeople depending on their opportunity, on buyer role, customer journey phase, business challenge, and then all these things. But back to what we said earlier, it also requires to make the homework and really get the content management organized and structured as well. And then technology can create great things. So then you probably want to know, okay, so many content types, and how do I do this? And here is a framework I just wanted to share with you. We have a lot more details on this one. If you think about how do I assess my current content and how can I design future content and what is it actually salespeople need to achieve in these different phases. So then, especially from an enablement perspective, we should always be aware of the challenge salespeople have to face in these different customer journey phases. So in the awareness phase, they have to create a future vision of success with them. They have to show what kind of value and which value can be achieved and how with the products and services you provide. And later on, they, of course, have to be the best buying option. And then later on, they should make sure that the value that has been sold gets created. And they also want to leverage the value to possibly create add-on business within this account. So especially for content, it's very important to tailor content types to these different phases. So a deep dive technical presentation won't be necessary before the buying phase normally, but the business value that can be achieved and how to do that, and this is much more important earlier on. So for training, so for one reason, training is also in these tailored buckets here. This is when it's about product training, and you also want to share the relevant value messages, because the value messaging thing is as dynamic as content itself. It all has to be tailored to different roles, to different situations. And other sales trainings on skill strategies and expertise, they're actually relevant along the entire customer's journey. And that's the same thing for coaching services, for sales managers. And ideally, you get all this powered by technology in an integrated way. And if you want to bring it down to four buckets, then it's a lot about people, process, technology, and skills and knowledge. Is just another way to just show, to extract what we've just shared in the framework earlier.
All right. Thank you very much, Tamara. We have a few questions that have come in on the chat. So I'll give you 2 seconds to have a breather, and then I'll start firing those at you. The first one that we have relates to the section that you talked about on dynamic alignment. Someone said, can you redefine dynamic alignment and just remind us what that means?
Yeah. So the difference between a formal and dynamic alignment is basically that in both cases, you assume the customer's journeys map different use cases, how customers buy different services and products from your organization. That's all defined. And in a formal way, you simply map that to your sales process and think, oh, that's it, we have done that, and now we are fine with it, and you move on. And in a dynamic way, you also see, in the age of the customer, there's also dynamic, and our customers will probably change their behaviors along the way, and we all know they do, and they change behaviors pretty often, and in one industry in a different way than in another way. So the dynamic approach really ensures that you have mechanisms in place, that you track their behavior, that you understand their behavior, and that you have mechanisms in place that allow you to quickly adjust what has to be adjusted in your internal process landscape. That's the difference.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So think about different sizes of organization. There's a question about an SME approach here. How do you execute and implement enablement strategies when you work in a very constrained budget and resource environment? Is there a way that an SME can make it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, not only SMEs, I also know from large organizations who work with those budget situations. It just comes in different forms and shapes. Whenever this is the case, and honestly, we never have enough budget. So there are two ways I would like to share, especially in an SME case. The challenges may seem simpler. It doesn't mean they are, but they probably seem simpler. So it's easier in an SME environment to really focus on what's most important right now. So that helps you to focus the budget you have. If you say, we need to get our value messaging right and then improve our content in this, then you only do this. And as a next step, in the next quarter, then you roll out the specific training services. You just don't do it at once. Or in terms of technology, I mean, technology is available in very different price ranges and from simple solutions to high sophisticated solutions. There are nowadays really good alternatives also if you have budget issues there to get this done. And then cross-functional collaboration also in smaller organizations, that should sometimes be easier, but you can work a lot with budgets from others. And I mean, honestly, I've done that a lot in my previous role. I never had the budget I've used. I was in a situation that I collaborated a lot with HR, and they were happy that somebody from sales actually was talking to them. So we could use budgets together to provide services. And I think that's always a way and also an advantage of collaboration. And then sometimes, not so much in SME, but in constrained budget situations, decisions are made in committees, no longer in your department alone. And if you have budget pools, the decisions are made in committees, it may take longer, but you have a better buy-in. So that could also be a way to deal with that.
Okay. The last question that we've got in on chat.
Question, I hope.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Whoever sent that question in, if you find that you need more information, just do let us know, and we can definitely endeavour to find that for you. So the last question that's in on chat at the moment, if anyone else has any, now's the time to put those in. This question pertains to sales effectiveness and sales productivity, which we talked about the difference a little bit. What metrics do you think are the most important? You know, there is so much to measure. What's the metrics that are most important to measure for each? And between the two of effectiveness and productivity, what's most important to focus on?
Let's start with the last part of your question. Define the right things to do first. Define what you want to achieve. For instance, if you are in an emerging market, probably to grow fast enough is your biggest goal. If you are in such a situation, you will probably have a much higher focus on new account acquisition compared to a situation where you are already the market leader and you're fighting for margins and are fighting to remain number one. So then you will have a higher priority on how to deal with existing clients. So this is all in the effectiveness performance areas. Define that first, and this has a lot to do with the business and the sales strategy. And then look at it, okay, where are actually our biggest challenges? What should we solve first? It can be available selling time, can be reporting obstacles. It can be people don't find the content they're looking for because we have it on 30 different repositories. So maybe we should work on this and reduce it down to one. Then I would really make a list and really prioritize depending on the effectiveness goals you define first. And okay, then what you measure depends on exactly what you decided on in terms of the strategy first.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, thank you ever so much for your time today, Tamara. I really appreciate it. And everybody that's joined us and listened. Thank you also for dialing in, and I hope it's been useful for you. This will be on demand, so you'll be able to listen to it again or share it with any of your colleagues if it's of interest to them as well. in the attachments and links, there is downloads for the full report and infographic that covers some of the key points. So again, take a look through at the resources available, and if there's any more information that you would like to have on the annual survey, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Cool. All right. Well, Tamara, thanks again.
Thank you, Emma, for having me. It was a pleasure.
That's great. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So back in 2013, 19.3% indicated and said, yes, we have something like an enablement function, discipline, program, or initiative. And now in 2016, what we've seen here, we have 32.7% of the participants who said, yes, we have an enablement function. So this is an increase of 69% just in these 4 years. So, and then let's look at the other hand side, and then let's see, but quota attainment is decreasing in almost the same amount of time. So we studied this in our sales performance optimization study for years, how quota attainment evolves. And back in 2012, there was a quota attainment, an average quota attainment of study of 63%. And if you look at the numbers, now we're down at 55 to 8% quota attainment, and that's the average quota attainment of this study, and it matches pretty much the values we get also from other studies. So the question becomes, from an enablement perspective, of, well, this is really an important metric in any sales, where it's not the only one, but it is a relevant one. So what is actually done to equip salespeople so that they are able to hit their quota? And before we go into the details to answer this question, I would like to show you a few demographics of the study. So we're really proud to say that this is one of the rare global studies on sales enablement. You can see here on the left-hand side, North America, of course, but the EMEA region, all the other regions of the world have participated in the study. We have different company sizes represented in the study, as you can see it on the right-hand side. And another data point I know many of you are interested in is what is the...
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We're just going to start in a few minutes.
Hello, thank you very much for taking the time to join this webcast today. We're talking today about the evolution of sales enablement with CSO Insights. Before we get started, just to note a couple of housekeeping items. First off, we're recording this session so that we can provide you with an on-demand version after the event. If you have any questions during the session, please do enter those into the questions panel to the right of your Wright Talk console, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible at the end of this presentation. I'm Emma Dunstone. I'm the VP of Marketing at Showpad, and today we have the pleasure of hearing from Tamara Schenk, a Research Director at CSO Insights and the Lead Analyst on the Sales Enablement Optimization Study. Good morning, Tamara.
Good morning, Emma. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We're glad you joined us. In today's presentation, Tamara, we're going to be discussing the results of the 2016 Sales Enablement Optimization. So now that we know what the overarching problem is, what have we learned from the study, and what outcomes do you think we should expect from implementing a sales enablement function, and more importantly, what should that function look like?
Yeah, we can answer a little bit of that. So let's look into the outcome of enablement initiative, and let me also share why the approach, how you approach sales enablement is so important and has such a big impact on the outcomes you can actually achieve. So here you can see that the outcome of an enablement initiative is currently not that satisfying. So in a nutshell, you see here that 2/3 of the study participants met only some or a few of their expectations, or they didn't take any enablement initiative in the first place. But on the other hand, there is also 1/3 here of the study participants who met most or all of their expectations. So there is a lot we can learn from those who met most or all of their expectations, and that's actually what we did in the analysis of the data, and what are we going to share with you.
Okay, thank you. So if you look at the results that you've seen, why are there so many outcomes of sales enablement initiatives that aren't satisfying? And looks like you've got some answers here about what the reasons for that dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we come to a few more, but overall, what we see all over the place is that there is still initiatives or programs that are designed in a one-of-project manner. It's still a problem if organizations think in point solutions only. Oh, I need a piece of technology here, and then we solve a problem. The technology can solve a lot of problems, but the homework and the preparation has to be done beforehand. Reporting structure, sales enablement. And the question really is, where in sales is sales enablement? So we see that from the growing discipline itself, that more and more enablement reports somewhere within executive sales management, and especially in large companies, sales operations is a home for enablement. And also, of course, marketing is a home for enablement, especially in the medium-sized companies, and for those who have a strong focus on the content part of it. So then another foundational slide I would like to share with you, that we're all on the same page. What is it actually we are talking about? So sales enablement, if you ask 10 people, you still get probably 10 different answers and perspectives on that. So at CSO Insights, we put a lot of effort in it to come up with a comprehensive definition that's, of course, also based on my past. So I had the pleasure to evolve enablement from a program to a function, to a strategic discipline, IT systems, a global IT service provider. So we came up with, what is it? Salesforce enablement is a strategic cross-functional discipline, and it's designed to increase sales results and productivity. And we do this by providing integrated content, training, and coaching services for both for salespeople and their frontline sales managers along the entire customer's journey, and of course, powered by technology. So a simple definition that makes sure that we know what it is, why are we doing it, how we do it, for whom, what's the main design point, and again, how. So technology is definitely an important element here.
So it's clear that decreasing quota attainment is a huge problem. I'm sure that so many can relate to that pain of declining productivity and effectiveness in the sales organization study, which is conducted by CSO Insights each year. The topics covered will be the evolution of sales enablement, the outcome of enablement initiatives for the company studied, the importance of formalizing a sales enablement function toward achieving your enablement goals, and finally, how to focus your enablement and those key components as such. So Tamara, sales enablement is not a new subject, but it is and is still an evolving practice. I would like to start today's webinar by providing a bit of background on sales enablement and the data that you're about to present. I know this is your second year of studying sales enablement trends. What have been the biggest trends that you've seen, and what does sales enablement look like, and how has that changed over time?
Yeah, thanks, Emma. Yeah, what we've seen is, and we will share it in a few moments, is that enablement is definitely a fast-growing discipline. And it impacts many, many functions within the organization. So it's not only a sales and marketing issue. And of course, as analysts, we are always very much focused on what is the business impact of sales enablement, and how can you improve the business impact, and what has to be done to do so. And so we will see also today it's a foundational prerequisites here you have to have in place, like the right way of customer journey alignment. You have to get your cross-function collaboration right, a few things, to be able to achieve the desired performance goals. Yeah, that's a few of the highlights. So then let's go into this, and let's begin with what I just said. Enablement is a growing discipline. So in our study at CSO Insights, we looked at enablement since 2013, and as you can see here,